Welcome, everyone, to the Last Gas Fantasy Podcast, coming to you live from the Gibson Truck World Studio here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Advisors, located at Celebration Point here in Gainesville, Florida. Brad, what a great day, man. It's a little muggy outside. It's a little rainy. It's not like the beautiful Sunday we normally see here in Gainesville, Florida, but it's great to be back in the studio and talking fantasy sports, man.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We're sitting here week 14, last week for most teams going into playoffs.
Yep.
It's last chance here.
No, it's great. You know, some teams are already going into playoffs, some are not. I mean, it's gonna be a great week to recap what's going on and moving forward. We want to say a special thank you to our sponsors, Archer Electric Services Company, Paisano Stone-Fired Pizza, Door-to-Door Transport, of course, Gibson Truck World, Viking Companies, and all of their continued support for the show. And it's just, we can't say thank you enough to them and what they've done, and it's great, Brad.
Yes.
You can also find us live on Facebook and YouTube, Twitter, at Last Gas Fantasy, every Sunday morning right now, 11 o'clock. Glad you tuned in. Glad you're listening. Send your comments on the live shows. We'll read them on the air. We'll talk about them. We'll answer them. We'll do everything we can to help you get into the playoffs or spoil somebody else's chance of getting into the playoffs, Brad. I mean, it's that time, man.
Yeah, I mean, come on, send your questions in because I know you're trying to figure out who to start, who to sit on this last minute thing. But you know, we're basically sitting in 1 and 3 spots. You're going to either be fighting for the championship of the regular season, you're going to be fighting for your chance to get in the playoff, or you're working as a spoiler. Even if you're in the playoffs, you could be working as a spoiler this week. So send in your last minute questions here. Let us help you out, decide who to start, who to sit, and let's have some fun today.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Brad, there's some different positions you're in. Whether you're guaranteed in the playoffs already right now, and you're in it, you're battling it. This is where you can't lose, you can't make mistakes. You're trying to get in it, like half the AFC is right now. I mean, we were just talking about it off air that half the AFC right now has a chance to be in the play. I mean, what, 2 teams, I think, with the only 2, which are Houston, Jacksonville, which go figure that out. They're out of it. So when you think about that puts so much pressure on them to play. But as a fantasy owner, you're happy. I mean, You've got players across the board that aren't, at this point sometime in the season, you're resting guys and you're not doing anything. They're not starting starters. I think 3 teams in the NFC this week can clinch playoffs. So the next couple weeks for them are going to be hard. We'll be talking about in future shows. But you nailed it. You're in a spot to really take advantage of it.
Yeah, you know, we were talking about it a few minutes ago. The 3 hottest teams in the NFL right now, of course, New England.
Yep.
The Chiefs are coming on, and the Miami Dolphins are on a 5-game winning streak.
I don't talk about the Miami Dolphins too loud. They'll just go out and lay an egg, So they're going to be under the radar. They're fighting the way they're 6 and 7. I think
6 and 7.
I think 5 straight, like you said. They're in the hunt for a wild card spot.
Yes.
I mean, they're not. I don't think they're going to get above the red hot New England Patriots, who are number 1 in the AFC right now, but that is wild to talk about.
Only thing they got to do right now is make the playoffs. You make the playoffs, you still got a chance.
I mean, and that's the thing is they were what 1 and
7.
1 and 7 when they started the weeks, and the thing is 2 was out, hurt, comes back, and has just that team has turned it around. I thought they were dead in the water, Brad.
I can't believe they won 5 in a row right now.
No, and that is it's mind blowing to think that they were able. You know what one of their losses were to? Jacksonville.
Yes.
They lost to Jacksonville, and now they're looking at a playoff spot.
Yeah, if they wouldn't have lost to Jacksonville, they'd be sitting right there in a playoff spot, right there at the line.
Could you imagine you miss the playoffs because you lose to a bad Jacksonville team? I mean, it is what it is, man. And that's great here. Just remember, you can find us at lastgasfantasy.com. You can send us any questions during the week at lastgasfantasy@gmail.com. Brad, we had a couple of questions late Wednesday, early into Thursday about who to play. Is Dalvin Cook playing? Is he not playing? Should we start Mattson? And, we told him, we answered, hey, make sure you're paying attention that day of because these things are ever changing. Just like this morning, we find out guys that aren't starting, aren't playing, like a Tyrod Taylor. He's not hurt, but he's not starting. They're going to start David Mills the rest of the season. You paid attention at the last minute. I want to give you kudos to that and said start Cook, man, and it paid out dividends.
Yeah, we're in that week 14 that I always say this is the time you go back to who you drafted, who you trusted at the draft. If they're available to play them. That was a Dalvin Cook situation. Yeah, everybody was talking about his shoulder and everything, but he practiced every day that week, full practice. So my suggestion was to play him, and he had a great game.
No, he did, and he was. I looked at it and I was like, I really hope that someone started him. And everybody that I saw actually did start him, and he carried the load there. And at halftime, I have Najee Harris on one of my leagues, and I said, well, really, not Dalvin Cook's running all over this team, and they got 29-0. And then, of course, it goes down where it was one catch in the end zone in the last second from it going to overtime almost. I mean, going for 2 to go to overtime, and Najee helped him get there. I think I got 25 out of him, so that was a great job there.
Najee had a pretty good second half.
Yeah, he did very well for me in my PPR league. But Brad, let's start in the recaps here and go with that first one, man.
Let's start where the big game. Patriots versus the Bills in a gusty gale force winds. Mac Jones throws a total of 3 passes, 2 for 19 for the win.
And that was the lowest amount of passes by a quarterback for New England's history. And to get a win doing that, I watched a TikTok or a Twitter video or Reels, whatever they're called nowadays, and the kicker was at a 35-yard kick, and he kicks it into the wind, and it curls back around to like the 10-yard line. Never even made it to the goalpost, never even got anywhere close. So that was a wild night in Buffalo, and that was Buffalo's game to win, and they just couldn't get it done against a red-hot New England team, man.
Yeah, New England's gone to 7 games now winning. They win every single way. You know, and it brings up a question that you and I could probably sit here and argue and talk about for the whole show or a whole day even.
Yep.
You've got Tom Brady, leaves New England, goes to Tampa, year 1, wins the Super Bowl. He's the GOAT. He's the best quarterback out there.
Yep.
I don't think anyone can argue that. Belichick, next year, takes a rookie quarterback, puts him in, and they're leading their division. They're making the playoffs. They're on a 7-game winning streak. The Belichick system.
Well, there's nobody like the GOAT, and I was never a New England fan, never was supporting them. I've always been a Bucs fan. Comes down, wins it. It's Tampa. I mean, it's Tom Brady. He is the best ever. Period. I don't think we'll ever see somebody do the numbers in the way he's doing, even the way the offense is changing. But I can't say. I think it has to be more credit to Mac Jones than to Mac Jones, because it's not his system. It's the intelligence of the quarterback and how they make reads and how they follow that system. Cam Newton tried to go in there and just lay the egg. I mean, he couldn't make the reads that Belichick needs a quarterback to do in making intelligent decisions. And so I have to give credit to Mac Jones on this way more than I had to give it to Belichick.
Mac Jones has had a really good season after the little bit of rough start they had. But when you only have to throw 3 passes in a game, why is it not the Belichick system? And my question to you is, all the rings that Tom has,
Yep.
could you have replaced them with a Drew Brees, a very good, outstanding quarterback, and still have all the rings?
So I don't think you can ever replace Tom Brady. Period. I mean, I don't care if you say that you have a Matthew Stafford, like he was in Detroit and was on a bad teams and now he's doing well in LA. I don't care if you'd have put a Phillip Rivers in there. I truly believe that his skill sets meshed well with that offense and those decision-making abilities. Do I think they would have won a couple? Yeah, I think they would have won a few with some of those other guys that are Hall of Famers. I don't think they would have won what is he at, 7 now?
Yeah.
Is he at 7 titles? So, and everybody's talking that it's going to be a Tampa-New England rematch or have a final Super Bowl battle with those two this year. So I'm excited to see what happens there, man. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that would be a fantastic game. See Belichick versus Brady in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it is what it is, but I believe that they both can get there. I think there's too much smoke and mirrors right now with New England. I just don't see them getting to the playoffs. They're going to get in the playoffs. I just don't see them making a run. Until they prove me wrong, I'm not gonna back them. I don't like the team. I don't like how it's built. I don't like the running game. I don't like everything there says we're not supposed to win, and yet now they're rattled off 7 straight, and I don't understand it.
We got a question on the Facebook board, and I want to hurry up and get to it because I know the waiver wire is probably hot right now.
Yeah.
I had Jamal Williams go out of COVID. I had to pick up a running back off waivers. Is Jeff Wilson Jr. a good start, or is there someone else you would recommend I can pick up? We were talking about Jeff Wilson right before the show, and
Yep.
With Mitchell being out, you got Wilson and Hastings back there.
Yep.
Wilson is supposed to pick up the most of the load. It's supposed to be a 60-40 split, but unless you have an 8-team league, you're probably not going to find a better running back out in your waiver wire.
Right. They've also got Rashard Penny out of Seattle that's up there. That's a he's got a chance to do some stuff. So take a look at all these guys. Rashard Penny's out there. You got Carlos Hyde for Jacksonville, has managed points. You've done that. Remember, Mark Ingram is out this week, or he's questionable with COVID. So you got, that's going to be an interesting thing there. Or he actually played Thursday, so you can't pick him up. But anyway, those are some other guys. Rex Burkhead from Houston too might get a few steals from there and just there. So there are a few other names out there, but I would go with, like you said, Jeff Wilson. If he's available, grab him and start him if you can.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get, like I said, about 60% of the carries. So I'm predicting Jeff to be in a 10 to 12 point range at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll go to the next game there, Brad. What you got?
Let me get back over to that.
Yeah,
screen.
you got the Chiefs. You got the Chiefs winning 22-9 over the Broncos. Like you said, is there a safer bet than Andy Reid coming off a bye week?
Yeah, he's 20-3 and hasn't lost a game since 2017 coming off a bye. That is pretty remarkable.
It is, and they're another team that you said is red hot right now. They started off a little slow. I think they're fine. Like we talked about, their defense has really picked it up on them.
Yes, 5-game winning streak for them.
Yep,
they're hot. Another team that's improving right now and is right there in the race, actually for the division lead, is Washington. And they beat the Raiders 17-15. They're 2 games back of Dallas, and they played Dallas 2 times this rest of the season.
Yep.
So they're right there. They hold the ball in their own hands.
And that's a wild game right there.
Yes.
They had an opportunity there. And I know you hate talking about Washington being in a hunt for your NFL, for your Dallas Cowboys. But that game isn't close to it. Washington was in front of that game the whole time.
Oh, yes.
They gave up a late TD, and then they missed a 2-point conversion that could have tied that game. But it was nowhere. That game was always them, and there's always the walk around with.
One that I'm disappointed in is this Baltimore Ravens team. Yeah. They go into Pittsburgh and lose 20-19.
Yep.
Now, it was a 2-point conversion they missed on and stuff. But what did you see in that game?
That is one of my. Later on, we talk about the disappointments and things like that. They had that division locked up.
Yes.
They played so well throughout the year, and they're starting to revert back. Either people are getting better and figuring out how to beat them, which they already knew the recipe, but now they're actually implying it and using it. No way Pittsburgh should have won this game at home, and they look like the better team the whole day here.
What do you think about the Baltimore's call to go for 2 to win the game?
It says that you don't trust your team, in my opinion. And some people are crediting, hey, way to have the guts to go for it, or way to have, the gumption to really put it out there. And of course, it hits the fingertips. It's a great call, and he just misses the throw, and Mark Andrews can't catch it off the fingertips. And it was an instant meme, like you were this close to the playoffs and stuff like that. So it turned out to be great media material. But you kick the extra point, and you give yourself a chance to win it in overtime. Yeah, and I don't understand that.
If this cost them to make the playoffs,
right,
that's a big decision.
Right, and that's I just don't agree with it. I know a lot of people liked it. I know maybe his team liked it, but you really shotgunned yourself there. And they're reeling right now. They're not winning games. They're not playing well. I mean, we can go back to the Steelers and things like that, but Steelers lose Thursday night and do that. So they come off that win and then go and choke it away on the other game against Minnesota, who loses to Detroit this week. I mean, so it's a wild. The NFL's all over the place right now, Brad.
Yep. The 49ers go into Seattle, and Russell Wilson and them actually play a great game and win 30-23.
Yeah, and that was the game where we talked about earlier in the week that it was a negative. It was like 3.5, and we're like, how is that game even 3.5? And Seattle just out of nowhere comes and wins a game, and it was bound to happen to somebody. You just didn't think it was going to be this week, and they actually played well. They won the game, and it'll be interesting to see how that happens.
We talked about Tua a little bit. Tua host the Giants.
Yep.
20-9, not even a really good game.
No, it really was. But guess what? Miami gets another win. The Giants had an opportunity to still fight for a playoff spot there. I think they're out of it now. I think after losing to Tampa and then coming back and winning and now losing this game, I don't think it ended. I think it's a two-pony race in that division with Washington and your Dallas Cowboys, them boys.
The Eagles play the Jets. The Eagles win 33-18.
Yep.
Zach Wilson came back, but
well, that's the thing too is that was one of my surprise players there. I'll talk about it and with him is that Gardner Minshew.
Yes.
Comes in. Minshew Mania's now hit Philly. He was having a blast, and it's just he's such a likable guy that you wish only the good things for him because he's the Uncle Rico, man. He owns that persona. He does it. He follows it, and he just has a blast out there, man.
As bad as some of the quarterback play has been this season, I'm surprised this is the first time we're seeing him.
Oh, I know. Especially, he was just picked up by He was just picked up by them, wasn't
Right,
he?
yes.
A couple weeks ago? Yeah. And so, now he takes the Eagles. They win the game, and it's just great. I want him to win. So that's all I can root for him. I have to root for him. The mustache is great. The persona is great. I saw him after the game. He gave his dad a big hug on media, and he was just hard about it and loved it. And, he's Papali, Vince Papali, the old Eagles, he works out with his son over there. And so that's where he's living at that house, that old Vince Papali, who's a legend for the Eagles, and that's where he's staying at right now. And so it's great to see him do that and be able to do that.
No surprise. Jaguars score 7, lose the Rams 37-7. I've heard rumblings about Urban again and Charlie Strong taking over for the rest of the season if it were to happen.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes.
In Jacksonville?
Yes.
That would be news to me. That is fantastic. I mean, I don't think he's going anywhere. He's fine. But don't put it past people to not understand that the money that's being thrown around in college football right now with coaches and 10-year deals and $100 million contracts, that is enticing for NFL coaches, Brad. And I'm not saying that is that you don't ever think that you'd go from League A to League B or League C is what I would consider college and those things like that. But the money that's there right now is unreal, and they're not afraid to spend it, and they're not afraid to give guarantees. I mean, just like here at Florida, $12 million coaching for staff and recruiting for offices and stuff like that. I mean, that number back in the day wouldn't have even been talked about or existed. So, it's big. First, I want to go and say a special thanks to Archer Electric Services Company. They bring you over 30 years of leadership and experience in both commercial and residential electric needs in the Gainesville and surrounding communities. Also, Paisano Stone-Fired Pizza. Whether you're looking for a quick lunch or dinner destination to meet up with friends and family, Paisano's is your place to go. Celebrate life's most memorable moments with delicious dishes, whether in our dining room or yours. Also, special thanks to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visors. Brad is starting to fill up here. We really appreciate them hosting us here at the Gibson Truck World studio here in Spurrier's. Weeby Marketing and what they continue to do to run the productions and things like here. And also, Gibson Truck World can be found in Sanford, Florida. They're the nation's leading used truck sales. They do a great job there, Brad. Go check them out. Go check out their trucks. They're one of the main sponsors that sponsors the studio for us. And, we just can't say, hey, great job. Go check them out and find them on our website.
Yeah, we are so appreciative of all of our sponsors and what they've done for us and let us be on every Sunday. And again, this great location here at Spurrier's, watching the people come in and sit down for brunch and enjoy some great food and in a great environment.
Yeah, man. So, Brad, we'll keep going with the recap and recap a couple more of these games, and then we'll go into some of the disappointments and approvals this week, man.
Your Bucks keep on winning.
Yeah, baby.
30-17 over the Falcons. Tom Brady is now 10-0 versus the Falcons. I mean, he owns them.
I mean, the thing is it's good to see Gronk getting back, getting the game, get a little healthier. AB got suspended for a couple of games because these guys, they just think they can get away with what. It's wild to understand that philosophy, but I'm not talking about the negative. You always want to talk about positive. Him and Gronk hooked up again, and his numbers are unreal this year. He's leading the MVP race right now, and I don't know if anybody can catch him. He's got to just crap out, and somebody's got to just explode for anybody to catch him in the MVP race, and I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. The Cardinals go out and win again, 33-22. They're still undefeated on the road.
Yep. And, Kyler comes back, puts up big fantasy numbers, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 throwing touchdowns, carries that team to a win. And the Bears looked a little better with Andy Dalton at quarterback, but they're still hard to watch on the offensive side. I mean, it's brutal. And I don't know if I've ever seen an NFL team that's been that hard to watch for. Sorry, Paul. I know that's your team. I know you're watching, man. But what a tough team to follow there.
Cincinnati hosts the Chargers. Cincinnati's scored at least 30 points in the last 5 of their 6 games, but they throw a loss up 41-22.
Yeah, just when you think, Brad, just when you think the Chargers are done and they go out and lose last week and they do this, they come out and beat a good Cincinnati team who's in the playoffs right now. They're in a wild card spot right now currently in that division. So both those teams are in the wild card spots in the playoffs. And so I think that was a good game for the Chargers to win, and they needed to have it. So we'll see where that goes and moves forward. But that's going to be interesting. And we talked about 4 or 5 of those games last week. That was one of them. That was a coin flip for sure.
And probably the biggest surprise of the week, the Vikings go into Detroit and lose 29-27. Kirk Cousins played a good second half.
Yep.
But it was comeback, and the first half they let Detroit get up, and they just couldn't come back.
I mean, that's the wild thing. The Vikings lose to the Detroit Lions last week and then go play Thursday night and beat the Steelers, who beat Baltimore, I mean, that you don't know who you're going to get and who's playing each week. So, I mean, the Lions, that was going to be my surprise of the week, and I can bring it up now. They had so much happen to that area with some of the heartbreak with some of the stuff going on in the schools in that area, and that town and that area really needed a pickup. And for them to come back on the last drive, last play, you could even see it. The coach donated the game ball to the community. You know, the fans, everybody needed something there, and that shows you how sports can be brought into your everyday thing, Brad. It shows you that sometimes sports helps communities heal, and it's something that you can really use and be positive about. And so, you know, it was great for them to get a win on this week alone. I mean, let alone they were 0-10-1. Now they're not. They've got a win in their belt.
The funny thing is, you know, as bad as their record is, they've been in almost every game.
I know they've had a couple. They've had a couple blowouts like you're right. But the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I mean, go back to Thanksgiving weekend where they should have won. They should have won that game. You go back before that, Cleveland beat them, I think, by like 3 points in week 10. So you think about it, they've been in every game, and it's unreal to think. I almost picked them over Denver this week, Brad. I was close.
It's not a reach anymore.
It was not a reach, and so I have not. I actually went with Denver, but I was so close to clicking the button and going, "Hey, I'll take Detroit. I'll double up on that red." So we'll see what happens.
A reach would be trying to take Houston to win, or the Texans to win. They lost 31-0.
Yeah, that's wild, man. Jonathan Taylor's doing crazy things there. He was one of my offensive players of the week. One, like you have it on here. I'm playing in my playoffs right now, and he's on a bye this week. So it's great. It's fantastic for me because he's not going to get the 70 points that he's been getting every week for her, who I'm playing. I was the 4 seed. She's the 1 seed. And I'm going to hopefully take advantage of her this week and when she doesn't have someone playing. So I can't really be mad about him being off. But he's really carried the load. He's put up great numbers. You know, and it's just unreal. He had 32 carries, 143 yards, 2 TDs, and was a monster in fantasy last week.
Well, he's leading the league in touchdowns. He's leading the league in yards.
Yep.
He's definitely going to be the offensive player of the year.
Yep. Oh, for sure. So you can't get bad. And then your Cowboys come back, win, get the win that they needed, 27-17 against the Saints. You got anything to say about them? You're hoping that they're going to do anything? What do you got going on?
They need one win. They need to beat Washington one time, and they're good.
And then they're in. That's all you need. Washington once. I got it. No, that's it. You know, so we'll recap some of the surprise games, player performance. We kind of talked about a little bit in the recaps and things like that, but we want to go over some of those fantasy numbers and things. I had 4 guys actually listed for my performance players of the week. I had Gardner Minshew. Even though he didn't have great numbers, like I said, I talked about him. He was 20 for 25, 242, 2 TDs, and it's just a great story. We talked about Tom Brady, his numbers. The problem that I have with Tom, though, and that Bucs team is he can't throw 51 times and think that they're going to win this playoff and think that it's going to keep going. He was 38 for 51, 368 yards, and 4 TDs, Brad.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette's got to be there. He was there a couple weeks ago and had a great game. He needs to be there more consistently.
Yeah, and so that is the only thing that worries me is that if you're living and dying by him, I mean, I'd die with him I'd go with him. I trust him. I'll do whatever, but they've got to find some balanced attack on that offense and kind of mix it in a little bit and eat up clock. And that's what I'm hoping they do. The other player we talked about, Jonathan Taylor, with his numbers. And then the last one, the surprise of the week, he's not a surprise to any fantasy owner that has had him all year, but it's George Kittle. He had 9 receptions, 181 yards, 2 TDs. He was top 10 fantasy on both PPR and standard points. He tore it up in a loss. So when you think about that, he's still one of the top 5 tight ends in the league. And so when you think about it, he balled out last week.
Any tight end to go 181 yards, man, that's a great game for somebody.
Yeah. No, and then you think about it. One of my biggest disappointments this week, Brad, and as we go into it and touch base with you on it, was that Baltimore game.
Yes.
It's just when you think about what they have to lose and where they're at in their division and things along that nature, you just can't understand that that's a game that they would lose. I mean, they're still 3rd right now in that division in the playoff hunt. They're behind New England and Tennessee, and they're 8-4. But if they're not careful, they're not going to be in the playoffs, Brad.
Well, and that's why I think that call was so risky.
Yep.
To go for 2. I mean, you're the better team.
Yep.
send it to overtime, play overtime, win the game.
Yeah. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals are 7-5 behind them. Pittsburgh Steelers, that's how big that game was against Thursday night against Minnesota. Now 6-6. They could have been at 7-5, 7-5-1, sitting well. But it's going to be interesting to see how that division plays out because you got Cleveland Browns right there at 6-6. I mean, so you got 4 teams that are 2 games within that with what is that? Four games left. 17 total. So it's anybody's league in there. So that was my biggest disappointment at least last week with them, Brad. I just can't believe that they weren't able to keep that going and do that.
No, and I agree with you. It's my biggest disappointment too, as we talked about in the recap and everything. I just think they could have made a little bit better decision on that game.
No doubt. And so as we talk about it, it's wild there. I just wish that they would have done some more things and done there. Brad, we were talking about as we get before the break here, we got a few minutes left. I'd like to hear your recap on your fantasy football teams, how they're doing. Are you in the playoffs? Are you not in the playoffs? I'll give you a little recap of mine, but I want to hear where you're at and let everybody know how you're doing.
Yeah, I decided to play 2 leagues this year. My first league, I'm in 3rd place. So I'm solidly in the playoffs. With 1 game left, there's no way I can lose third place.
Yeah.
I can get 2nd place and go in that way, but I can't lose 3rd. My other league, I'm fighting for the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's a 12-team league. 8 of us make the playoffs, and I'm in 8th place right now.
Yeah.
I'm up by 1 game, and with my IRs, I'm predicted to lose this game this week, so we could be tied. And luckily, I have them by 100 points right now.
No.
So points matter, and that's why someone the other day wrote that they're the highest point in their league, but they're 6-6 record. Well, those points do pay off at the end. So just keep on scoring your points, and it's going to work out for you.
Before I talk about mine, I want to answer a question that came in on Facebook or YouTube. Would you start MVS, which is Valdez Scantling, which is a guy that we talked about as a big sleeper waiver wire pickup, or Jalen Guyton, and it's full PPR. We talked about how many receptions he's been thrown at. Was it 19 times for MVS?
Yeah, he's been targeted 19 times. Now, he's only caught like 7 of them, but if you have 19 targets.
In a PPR league, which is the big thing to me. Jalen Guyton, he's had some plus sides recently, but I think we're both in agreement. Go with MVS. He was a waiver wire this week. I think he's going to do well. I think he's going to have another 10 targets. If he gets 6 or 7 of those and 100 yards, you're looking at 16 points, depending on what it is, and hopefully he steals a touchdown, which could win you this week in a playoff game.
Well, he's your long ball threat, so it's very possible catching a long ball for a touchdown. You get a couple regular catches and a long ball, and you've got 15, 20 points.
Yeah, you're there. So we'll go with MVS on that one. I'm in 2 leagues. One of the leagues I'm second to last place, which is terrible, but that's how it is sometimes. But my other league, we talked about points where you were saying the most points. I got into the playoff because I had more points than him. And that league is only a 4-team playoff, and they play a dual week playoff team, which most leagues don't do that, where you play back-to-back weeks against the same opponent. You combine your 2 scores, and then that one goes to the championship round, which is also a 2-week playoff. And so it's a neat concept to be able to go, hey, you can make up for a bad week, and it's not just down to one time where, like you said, people are on buys, or you don't know what's going on, or someone has this or that. So it's a really unique setup on that league, and so we're in there, and so I'm in the playoffs there. But it's been interesting to talk about that way.
So in that type of scenario, you've got to put in a roster that is going to stay for 2 weeks.
No, you still get the. It's 2 weeks, like if you were managing as a regular week. So you put in your regular week, you can change it all for the next week. So for instance, she has 2 players on bye with Carson Wentz and Jonathan Taylor. And so this week she has to fill those in, but next week she gets to put those back in and play and gets those points. And so you have to have, in that league, you have to have good backups. You have to be able to have people come in, and it's an interesting thought on that.
Very creative.
And you can, I think last year I was losing by 80 after the first week, and then beat them by 90 the next week, and then won the week, and then won the championship. So it's a crazy thought, but it's a great league to play in.
I like it.
Brad, it's right on the break here. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll catch you on the backside of this, and we'll see you there. Thanks, everybody.
Gibson Truck World's expert team of sales and service staff will show you why we have been the pioneer of used trucks since 1995. With our 1-year bumper-to-bumper warranty valid across the entire United States, our exclusive 15-day exchange policy, and our $1,000 best price guarantee, it's easy to see why we're the #1 used truck dealership in all of Florida. Please call, visit, or explore our website today to see for yourself why we are the king of trucks.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back, everyone, to Last Gas Fantasy Podcast, coming to you live from the Gibson Truck World studio here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Advisors, located at Celebration Point here in Gainesville, Florida. I want to say a special thanks to Archer Electric Services Company, Paisano Stone-Fired Pizza, Weeby Marketing, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Advisors, and Gibson Truck World for the continued support of the show, Brad. Remember, follow us live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're here every Sunday morning talking fantasy football, recapping last week's games, talking about waiver wires, injuries, trying to give you the most up-to-date information we can so that you can win your weeks week in and week out, Brad. We just got a couple of questions in on the social media platforms. Is Pollard still a game-time decision? And
no, he's not. Pollard tried to do it in warm-ups. He's not going to be able to play today. So his backup is Clement. With Zeke a little banged up, Clement might get a couple carries, so he might be someone you want to go look at.
And during the break, we also did a little research on Jalen Guyton, just to make sure we're recapping and giving everybody the full information. There's some concerns with COVID relations with Williams and Allen in San Diego, and Guyton did really well last week. Had 4 catches, 90 yards, and a TD. Had a really good week. They've also got Joshua as another wide receiver there that was just talked about with him, and making sure that you can follow up with him, and that was Joshua Palmer.
Right.
So they say Palmer and Guyton are going to try to make up the workload there out in San Diego because they're still going to sling it 100 times with Justin Herbert behind there. So look into those 3. So those might be options if the other name, MVS, is already taken. So those 2 names might have a potential use there. So we like to recap, try to get those things caught up with everybody, Brad. And I think now it's time to talk about injuries and see what's going on, man.
Well, there is another comment on the message board.
Yeah.
They don't want my thoughts on it because they know I'm a Dallas fan. So they say
you're a little homer on that side. I get it, Brad.
Specifically, TJ.
Yeah.
Does Dallas win in DC without Pollard?
So I've been on the Dallas train all year. Surprisingly, that I think that they're doing what I think they should do with the offensive weapons they have. I thought Zeke would be a little more productive this year. The thing is that Washington, out of nowhere has become a very, very difficult team to play. They had, Tampa lost to them, and that's just a shocking thing to me. Heineke is playing very well. Their defense has played well, even with using Young for the season over there. I think Dallas knows that if they win this game, they're in, and I think they're going to have enough to beat Washington. So yes, I believe Dallas does get the win on the road in DC, and ends the critics. Like we talked about at the beginning of the game, Dallas, the Cardinals, and Tampa, all with a win today, can lock their division title up, and then fight for that first place game and who has the bye going into the playoffs. The thing is, now if they lock the divisions up, they can take a break. They can rest some players. If Zeke is hurt, they can start some guys in the backup. They can get Dak some more rest, and they can get some guys, instead of getting beat up all day long, into the playoff.
And that's a great point, because I think and I said this from the beginning, you start who you drafted. Go back to your draft and who you start. So you start Zeke this week, and you count on him to score. I know he's got a little banged up, and if they do pull off this victory, Pollard, Zeke, Dak can get some rest, can get healed up, and be ready for the playoffs.
And then for fantasy owners, it's a nightmare.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Going into the championship games.
Going into your championship rounds. And you got 3 weeks left, and they're going, I'm going to sit Dak this week. Thanks, guys. But now we'll continue with the fantasy injuries, seeing where they're at, where their names are at, and go from there, Brad, and figure out how we're going to move forward there.
Yeah. On the injury report this week, we're going to start out in Arizona.
Yep.
Chase Edmonds is supposed to return from IR, but it is a game-time decision, and they are playing Monday night. So if you do not have his handcuff, which is Connor,
Yep.
it would be a risky play.
Yeah.
So he's probably not one you really want to go out after.
And I've heard he's coming back and playing, but like you're saying, that's a risky chance to take on a Monday night game where you got no help to back that up.
I mean, if you've got nobody, you take the chance.
Yeah.
But sometimes 1 point wins a game.
Yeah, for sure. It's worth getting that 1 point.
Calvin Ridley, personal reason he remains out.
Yep.
Let's see. Baltimore has Miles Brooklyn, finger doubtful. Buffalo is Emmanuel Sanders, personal. He missed practice on Friday. It's deemed day-to-day. I think he'll be back and playing.
Yeah. He's been letting me down all year, so I dropped him and got rid of him. But, yeah, that's interesting there.
As everybody knows, McCaffrey's out for the season. Sam Darnold remains on IR.
Yep.
Chicago, Marquise Goodwin, foot. Andy Dalton, hand. Both are doubtful. Running back Damian Wilson made it back to full practice Friday, so he's poised to return. Allen Robinson, hamstring. David Montgomery, groin. And quarterback Justin Fields, practice Friday, and are all good to go.
Yep.
Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon's one I've been watching myself, too, but they said he's coming back and playing. He's been sick without COVID.
Right.
It's going to be interesting what his playtime is, but he was seen on the practice field Friday in sweats. So it looks like he is getting better, so he should be a good start.
That's going to be my question, because I've got him in my league in the playoffs, and I'm like, do I start him? He's still questionable, so I'm going to wait till actually win the game. It's 10 minutes to start. Go review it. Go look and see if he's suited up, if he's playing, if he's out there doing it. So keep an eye on him.
His backup's P. Ryan.
Yep.
So, I mean.
And they've been sharing the load all year long. Samaje's been getting a lot of the carries and doing some things. But Mixon has done very well with the touches he's gotten.
He has. T. Higgins should be playing again this week. Joe Burrows is good to go.
Yeah, he's good to go.
Okay, got cleared Friday.
Yep. Just a reminder, Darren Waller out. So Foster Moreau is the fill-in again. So if you want to back up from Las Vegas, that's a tight end there. Elijah Moore from New York Jets is out. He's on the IR. He was replaced. So pay attention to that. Also, we talked about Tyrod Taylor from Houston earlier. He's not starting. David Mills will be the starter there. So follow up with there and information along those lines.
We covered Dallas, but Jarwin, the tight end, is going to play too.
Okay, he's back. Yep.
Yep, he's playing. Denver, Melvin Gordon was limited all week and is questionable as a game-time decision.
Yep.
So Mike Boone is COVID-19.
Yep. And it's wild to be thinking that we're in week 14, and these things are still
popping up.
These are some of the questions that are happening for all these players, whether they're getting in, whether they're getting out, whether COVID. I mean, Detroit, I think they've got a bunch of players that are out this week with COVID-related issues, and so there's a lot of issues. Anthony Schwartz is out for Cleveland with a concussion, so Jarvis Landry and Donovan Peoples-Jones will get throws at. So, these are things that it's so hard as a fantasy manager. Before, Brad, we talk about injuries and we were like, oh, this is something we just go pick up the next guy off the waiver wire. Now, week in and week out, you've got players that were there last week and aren't going to be there next week, and then they'll be back the week after. But you've got to drop them. You've got to pick them up. You've got to get players in there. Like you said, 1 point matters. So pay attention to those waiver wires, people, because people are having to drop good players. If you can only keep 5 or 6 players on your bench and you've got buys, you've got to drop good players to pick those up. So it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and I hope that everybody kind of pays attention to see those different things.
Yeah, Detroit, we talked about this a second ago. DeAndre Swift is out. Jamal Williams is out with COVID.
Yep.
But Jared Goff is back. He should be fine to play.
Yeah. And then, Adrian Peterson gets a touchdown last week, and now he's out again this week because of his back. So, we talked about Rashard Penny as a fill-up or Alex Collins. That'll split those carries with them and see if they'll get some pack up there. So, other guys you could find.
Yeah, exactly. You get down to Miami, they're on a bye week, so you don't have to worry about them.
Yep.
Minnesota played Thursday. So we got the Saints. Alvin Kamara is set to return. So there's a running back that you haven't been able to play in a while.
Yep.
He should be back this week.
Yep.
Taysom Hill, he hurt that finger, but he's going to go this week. Mark Ingram and Ty Montgomery are unlikely to play.
Yeah. So, same what we just talked about Keenan Allen and Mike Williams with the question we had. They're both questionable for COVID. I don't think they'll be there both there, so we'll see what happens. So Williams was removed from the list on Saturday, so he should be able to play. But you don't know how that'll infect him playing and being productive. So that'll be interesting.
Daniel Jones is still out for the Giants. So is Tony.
Yep. I feel like the Giants list is always a mile long with the same names on it. So no matter what you do, Corey, you got to do something out there. Better eating, better strength and conditioning coach, something like that, man.
We already talked about San Francisco's problems in the running back situation. Sermon's out, and so is Mitchell. So Jeff Wilson.
Yep. So talk about that. Deebo Samuel is questionable. He did practice late in the week there, Brad, for San Francisco. But, we'll see what happens there. Keep an eye on him before the game starts.
Yeah, that pretty much wraps up most of it.
Yeah, it seems like, we'd get a smaller list here and there, but every week it gets longer and longer, man. So, it's a long, grueling season for these guys, Brad, and they're playing 17, 18. Now they're in 18 weeks. They're having 17 games. And so it's going to be a battle of attrition for whatnot, which players can stay healthy, which ones can't stay healthy, and along those lines, man. So it's good to get those out, get them in there, and talking about that stuff, man.
And with 18 weeks, does this allow us more opportunity for more teams to make the playoffs, now since they expanded to a 17 playoff in each division? Or does this allow us more time to rest players before the playoffs?
Yeah, and I think if you can win early and be in the division lead, it gives you more time to rest. I mean, it's almost like there's if you're locking up those divisions this week, it's almost like a 2 or 3 game preseason in the season to where you can take a break on it. But how does that affect fighting teams in the playoffs?
Right.
How do those teams that you're playing, like if I think Tampa plays the Bills one game, like if are they going to take off and let the Bills win the game? It's like do I really? The Bills fans are like, yeah, take off. I want to win that game. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out there, Brad.
It's sort of like we talk about fantasy. If there's a game to play, you play it. You don't sit out. You don't hold your players out. Now, NFL, they do hold their players out.
Yeah,
they do sit out.
Yeah.
So
and they won't ever say it,
Right. I mean, are we going to have to come to an NBA rule that you're not allowed to do that?
Yeah, well, and I think that's overreach by the NBA. I can't stand some of the quirks that they do, but I don't think if that's the team's choice and that's what they're doing, then they're looking out for themselves and the players, and I respect that. So as a fan, we might not like it because you paid to go see a game play, but they don't. They're there to win game. They're there to do what they do best to win a national championship.
So besides money, what is the advantage of the 18th week?
Well, it's only money. I mean, that's really what it is. It's only money, and I think the demand for football year round is there, and I think that's why it was added in. People are still going to watch the games. People are still going to see it. They're going to want to watch. So it's not like it's a detriment for fans to watch sports. For us, it's great. We get to talk fantasy football another week. We get to talk about players. We get to add weeks to that. I mean, that in itself right there alone, daily fantasy sports, pick'em weeks, the lines, the movements, the monies, it's a benefit for everybody. I wish they would have given them a second bye week.
Yeah.
So make it 19 weeks. I don't care how long the season is. Give them an extra bye week in there to mix in to allow their bodies to recoup. And I mean, these guys are some in the mid-30s. Tom Brady's 44. Also make their roster a little larger. Let them have some more players on the roster. Let them have different things like that so that you can give teams more fair competitive challenges there. And that's what I hope they do. But we'll see how that goes.
In the AFC, there's really not a team that can sit down and rest, except for the last two that are 2-10.
Right.
But I mean, the other teams are fighting for position. So this 18th week here is very important for these teams that are 1 and 2 games behind.
Yeah, for sure. And we talk about waiver wire pickups, Brad. Jeff Wilson, waiver wire ad, running back. Marquez, Valdez, Scantling, Green Bay, we talked about. Be great to have him, pick him up if you can get him. Also out of Atlanta, Russell Gage. Had a couple big weeks. I picked him up. I'm going to play him. I know it's a shot in the dark, but I think he's going to continue to do well as what he's doing, Brad.
Yeah. Clement for Dallas, you got to take a look at him now since Pollard's out. If Zeke is a little banged up, Clement could be a 30-40%.
Yeah, could get some touches there.
Right.
Especially that if he comes in and plays. We want to say a special thanks to Archer Electric Services Company. They're bringing you over 30 years of leadership and experience in both commercial and residential electric needs to Gainesville and surrounding communities. Also to Paisano Stone Fire Pizza. Whether you're looking for a quick lunch or a dinner destination to meet up with friends and families, Paisano's is the place to go. Celebrate life's most memorable moments with the delicious dishes, whether in our dining room or yours. Also, check out Gibson Truck World, located in Sanford, Florida. They're a great place to get a used truck. Also, Viking Companies, great group there. They do all your management needs. Check them out on the website. They're one of the main groups here at Celebration Point that run this place. Their management over there, Spain's a great guy. We meet him all the time. So if you haven't got a chance, I look up to him. I'm 6'3", and he towers me like I'm a little child. So, he's a big dude, Brad.
Yes. So you want to get into these games for this Week 14 and start talking about them and picking them?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's go with it. I'm excited about it.
We can start in that Thursday night game. We already know who won.
Yep.
A big game for both teams. Both of them need to win. If Minnesota would not have won that game, they probably would be out of the playoffs.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing, you lose to Detroit, you come back and you beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was 29-0 in that game, Brad.
Yeah.
Minnesota almost gave that game away in the second half. So, Minnesota won that. It was only a 3.5-point spread. I think they won by 8 in the final number, so they covered that spread. We've got Baltimore at Cleveland. It's 2.5. Who are you taking?
This is a tough one.
Okay.
I mean, I'm expecting Baltimore to recover and win this game. They need to stay in the top of their division. If they don't, it just tightens that division up even tighter. But I'm going to go Baltimore.
And that's the thing is, Cleveland has the chance to just come out here and win this game. I mean, they need to win this game to be in the playoff hunt. And to think that, I don't know the last time Cleveland was this late into a season where they could be in the playoff hunt. So I think Cleveland wins this game at home against Baltimore. Baltimore's reeling, and I think Cleveland steals this game from Baltimore. You got Jacksonville at Tennessee. I don't think any of us think Jacksonville stands a chance here, even with all the talk and things like that. I think Tennessee wins that handily and still is the second seed in the AFC.
Yeah, there's 9.5 points on that one.
Oh, yeah. You got Las Vegas at Kansas City. Kansas City on that big win streak. Who do you like in that game, Brad?
I mean, I'm definitely going to go for Kansas City. I think 9.5 is a lot. And, anything approaching double digits in NFL is a lot if they're competitive teams.
Yeah.
I do think Kansas City wins. I do not think they cover.
I like Kansas City in that game. I like that Vegas has been able to stay in it too. They're still in the hunt too. They're still in the division. So this is not going to be a blowout in my opinion. Right. I think it's going to be a close game, come down to the fourth quarter. And I think you're right. I think Kansas City steals it late, but I don't think they cover like you're saying. You got New Orleans at the New York Jets, Brad. The Jets are getting 6.5. Do the New Orleans get off that losing streak? Because they have not won a game since I can remember, and they need a win.
Taysom Hill's going to run for 150 yards.
So you're saying start Taysom Hill if you got him? He's going to run all over him.
Just start him in your running back position.
Just start him in if you can put him as running back. No, I think so too. We missed on him last week. I missed on him last week. I think he does well this week. I think they'll win this game. But if the Jets are a team that can pull one out, I think they might win this one. So I'm going to go New Orleans, but I don't think they cover. I don't think they cover the spread that by any means. If it's going to be a 1 or 2 point game, if anything. You got your Dallas Cowboys at the Washington Redskins. Washington football team.
Yes.
Can't call them that anymore. I still call St. Louis Rams. I still call them the wrong name. But Dallas at WFT, Washington football team. Who do you like, Brad?
Of course, Dallas.
You got to go Dallas, huh?
Yeah, they like you said earlier, have the chance to clinch their division right here, and they're going to do it.
Yeah, and so it's great that they're playing well. They have a good record, and that Washington's playing well. And we're not talking about are one of these teams sneaking into the playoffs. In the past with that division, you've talked about, well, is a losing record team going to be making the playoff, or are they going to get to 500? And I think there's definitely going to be a winning team in that division, and that's who's going to make that playoff.
I will tell you, if Washington were to win this game, I'm shaking in my boots for Dallas making the playoffs.
You're calling Jerry Jones yourself and trying to get him to straighten it up. Atlanta at Carolina. If you'd asked us a long time ago, I said Carolina walks away with this. But Atlanta's been playing a lot better. They've been putting up points. They've been great for fantasy hunters because, Cordarrelle Patterson is just all over the place. Matt Ryan's been putting up numbers. So it's been great for fantasy there. Who do you like in that game?
I'd go out and reach out and take Atlanta. Like you said, they've been playing very well lately.
Yeah. I took Atlanta on the road, getting 2.5. I think they cover and they win it outright. So I'd take them money line if you ask me. I think Atlanta beats Carolina in Carolina. I just don't like where Carolina's headed. I don't think, MCM's gone. They've got Scam Newton back in there, and so I just don't think that they're going to cover at home. You got Seattle at Houston. Who do you like there, Brad?
Russell's going to have a 2-game winning streak.
Watch out. Seattle needs Seattle needs a little pickup. They're going to do well. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
You said Mills is starting as quarterback, right?
Yep. And Houston just doesn't seem like, they're like Jacksonville. They're like the Jets. They're like Detroit. They're still trying to figure themselves out. I just don't like them, and I think Seattle gets it.
And covers.
Yeah, and I do. I think they cover that line. I think they do well, and I think they blow them out by 20 or 25. So we'll see what happens there. Brad, I'm a football fan across the board. So in other countries, football is soccer. So the Portland Timbers lost to the New York team in the MLS Cup last night, and the Timbers tied it with 10 seconds left in the regulation. They went to extra time, played 30 minutes, and then lost in PKs. Oh. So it was a great game. I know that's probably boring some people with soccer talk, but you got to give credit to FC United up there in New York, and congratulations on their first MLS Cup win. And so we talk about that, Brad. And so it's great. Next game
is Detroit versus Denver. It's 8.5 points for Denver. We just talked about how Detroit's playing well.
Yep.
I am going to take Denver, but again, I don't think they cover. I think Detroit keeps this close. Yep. Denver has a 3-4 point win.
And I think I wanted to take Detroit. I ended up taking Denver, but you're right. We got the New York Football Giants, and you've got the LA Chargers. They got the Chargers winning by 10 or 9.5, which is, I think they do. I think they win. I think there's too many injuries again with New York, and I think the Chargers. I think we both agree upon that.
Yep.
We got San Francisco and Cincinnati. San Francisco's going to Cincinnati, and they've got this game as a coin flip, 50-50. 0.5 is about 50-50 pick as you can ever do. I just don't think they wanted the right pick in there, so they just gave a team 0.5.
Yeah, this could be an interesting game. If San Francisco get that run game going, they're going to give Cincinnati a fight. I don't think that's going to happen, and I think Cincinnati's going to win by 7.
Yep, I agree with you. I think Cincinnati beat San Francisco. San Francisco, got beat by Seattle last week. They're reeling off of that, and so hopefully Cincinnati comes out and still fighting for that division, still fighting for a playoff spot, still in the playoffs now. So we'll see what happens there. You got Buffalo at Tampa, and I'm shaking in my boots on this game, Brad.
Well, Buffalo gets to get out of that windy city here in Buffalo.
Yeah, and, what a game.
And come back down to Tampa where the weather's, fairly nice today.
Right.
Might be a little overcasted, but they don't have to deal with that wind and that snow. Buffalo has to win this game to really stay in the playoff hunts.
They really do. And they go into Tampa. Tampa, I think, is undefeated at home this year. They don't lose at home. They don't lose there. And you didn't think that this game would have as much emphasis on playoff when the season started because you thought that they'd both be kind of where Tampa's at. They're tied for first in the division, or they're tied for second behind, St. Louis and Arizona and Green Bay. But I don't know if they're going to catch Arizona for the number 1 seed to get that bye. So I think this game means more to Buffalo. I took Tampa because I took them, but I think Buffalo wins this game in Tampa.
I do too. I think Josh Allen goes out and has a great game, recovers from that horrible game in the wind, and Buffalo takes this victory.
Yep. You got Chicago at Green Bay. Green Bay by 12.5. I think Green Bay handles that, walks away with it, and
Bay.
it takes that easy. And then your Monday night, probably game of the week in that division and in all of football, you've got the LA Rams at the Arizona Cardinals. Who wins that game, Brad?
Again, so much on the line for the Rams here. How many games are the Rams back right now?
I think they're right out of it. They're only a couple games out of that place right there, Brad. They're at 7-5, and St. Louis, Arizona is 10-2. So they're not in the same division. They're in the AC, NFC, but it's a great game. It's going to be a big game.
Yeah, I was just seeing how many games they were back in their own division.
Right.
To see, how big of a game, because Arizona is won their division.
Right.
Arizona has nothing to play for in the sense of making the playoffs.
Yep. They're one game back. The Kansas City's 8-4. They're 7-5.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go to Rams then, because the Rams have more to play for.
Yeah, and I see that, and you're right, Brad. And so I think Arizona's shooting for the one spot, and they're in that division, in that side of the bracket. And so I believe that they're going to do. I think they should win this game, but I'm not. I think it's going to be a great Monday night game.
Yeah,
if
is.
anybody's wants to watch a great football game, turn it on, and that's going to be a great game, great for fantasy owners. All of them are scoring points. It's not going to be like a 6-5 game, Brad. It's going to be 35, 31, 34, 31, some score like that, and great for football.
And great for fantasy football, because that means the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and the running backs are all going to be scoring points. So if you've got players in these games, you must play them.
Well, I mean, that's that division, Brad, real crap, is Kansas City's at 8-4 with their 5 straight. You got Los Angeles at 7-5 right behind them. You got Las Vegas at 6-6 and Denver at 6-6 right behind them. So that whole division is positive, just like with that other one with Baltimore. So it's interesting to see where they're at and do that. So that's our picks for the week. We always try to end on a positive note here, Brad, and talk about it the last 3 minutes of the game. I'm going to bring up something that was, it touched a lot of people around and a lot of friends and a lot of family that live in the area. The tornadoes that went through just yesterday night. We want to say we're thinking about those families, about the families of the players, about the families of that were impacted, the ones that passed. I mean, it's wild to see 250 miles of tornadoes that rip through 6 or 7 states, and you can't find people. And we just want to touch on it. We don't like to harp on a lot of things, but we really hope that and pray that their families are doing well, and that anybody that's affected, we're thinking about you. And if there's anything that can be done, please reach out to help those families in need, Brad.
Yes, keep everybody in your prayers, please.
Yeah. So, with that being said, Brad, we've got a couple minutes left. Any recap for the week? Anything you're excited about? Anything you got going on, man?
Well, no, I mean, I'm just looking at this schedule, and it looks like some good games out there. I am keeping my fingers crossed Dallas can beat Washington and clinch that division. What about these real quick on daily fantasy football? That's a little bit different game than what we're playing here.
Right.
But anybody that's out has spoiled their league already. They can go play daily fantasy football.
Yep. DFS.
Yes, and you draft by a dollar amount, and you try to put the best team out there.
Yep.
And if you haven't done it, it's a good way to keep playing fantasy football while we're done.
Yep.
And
that's the thing. If you're out of your playoffs and there's still football to watch and you still want to be invested, DFS is a great way. Whether it's through FanDuel, DraftKings, any of those organizations that do that. You go, you pick your roster. They even have free ones. You can even do it free. It doesn't have to be for money. It could be you and your friends start up one, and you just do it for fun, for bragging rights. So say, hey, Brad, I beat you this week. Good job, buddy. And everybody can pick the same players. They can pick different players. And so it's kind of ironic. I love it. Fantasy has evolved into so many different things and different avenues along those lines. As we wrap up, Brad, I want to say thanks to all of our sponsors again. I want to say thanks to Evan for producing each and every week over here behind it. So thank you guys. Remember, you can follow us at Last Gas Fantasy Podcast, either through Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're on all the social media platforms. Come like us, ask the questions. It was great feedback today, great questions this week. And we'll catch you next week, and hope you have a great week, man.
have a good one.